Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Read Receipts, and I am back with another book review. And today I have Locking Up Our Own by James Forman Jr. So this book is definitely nonfiction, more of a legal writing piece, and it won a Pulitzer Prize, and it is such a good book. And I want to just jump right into the review. So the synopsis is that the book is about basically mass incarceration and how we got there. My generation of young people, my generation of African Americans, my generation of attorneys, mass incarceration has been the buzzwords. But the elephant in the room is that, while these laws, these criminal justice laws are being enforced, a lot of the decision makers, a lot of people in power, a lot of the voices that spoke for the Black community were Black leaders. So there you have it. The book is called Locking Up Our Own. So the book starts in the 1970s, basically with marijuana legalization and the fight for that, which I had no idea that people were fighting to have marijuana legalized in the 70s. And basically through heroin, through the crack era, and just up until where we are present day with our war on drugs and street violence in the Black community. The author does an excellent job of really telling the story of how we got here, to the power players, the bills, the city council, how Black people came into these positions of power, why they felt the way that they did, and what led us up to where we are today. I think that he did an excellent job of staying, down the center of, not being biased. That was one thing that I probably would have found challenging if given this task. And I think he did an excellent job of not choosing sides, but just trying to lay out the facts. Who is this book written for? I think that if you are a member of the voting population, you need to read this book. If you want to participate in any kind of activism, politics, anything, you need to read this book, because without, Fred Hampton says this best, and I love to repeat him on this, without political education, you are going to find yourself replicating the same system of oppression and just putting different color heads and different color figures in certain positions. And this book does an excellent job of showing how that came into play with the war on drugs and leading up to where we are now with mass incarceration. The book does read like academia, and I think it might be a challenge for people who aren't too if you're not a fan of reading academia, it might be a challenge. It doesn't necessarily read like a story, but it's still a good read. I think it's very much comprehensible to the everyday person. Very easy to understand. It's not written totally in legal jargon or so much over your head where you have to use a dictionary to read with it. It's a very decent read. It's a heavy read. One of the things that I also kind of battle with the book, I don't know if it's a like or dislike, but the book brought up a lot of memories for me. I saw my childhood a lot in this book growing up on the south side of Chicago in the crack era. I saw a lot of some of the descriptions of what was said, how the news would read every night, the gunshots, everything. Like I lived a lot of that, and so that book, brought up a lot of things about it. That's how real it was. That's how much of the picture Mr. Forman painted for you, and that's how much alike the experiences were across Black America through that point in time. One of my favorite pieces about this book, although I think the whole book was interesting, the research was original, but one of my favorite interesting pieces about this book was when Mr. Forman talks about when Black police officers came into the scene, when Black police officers came on as cops and police chiefs. I thought that was so interesting. And one thing in their attitudes and how they were more, abusive than white cops, and the reasons why. But one thing that, of course, this is not, a rumor. Like, everybody knows this to be true, especially if you grow up in the hood. But one thing that I thought that was so interesting is that, Mr. Forman says they were not hired. They were hired because they wanted equal paying jobs. They wanted better jobs. They wanted to provide for their family, and being a police officer was noble work and a good paying job. They were not hired with the intention of being civil rights leaders. And that spoke so many volumes to me. Like, that was so profound. It's like sometimes we hold people to a certain standard that they don't even know that they're being held, and that we haven't even educated them on to do. So definitely a teaching point in history, but that it did a lot for me. Not saying that I'm giving to the police any Black police officers a break, but they are not your civil rights leaders. They have not been, in most instances, have not been educated on social history, political history. They are there to do their job. And now, unfortunately, what you have is that they've become part of a police culture, that we in turn hate them for, instead of being an ally or a liaison to our community. So I think that was a huge, bombshell drop in the book. Locking up our own left me with so many questions, but I think the most pressing one is, now that we have all this information, what do we want to do with it? What are we going to do with it? Because the author leaves that up to yourself, and it's just like, are we going to really, pay attention to these elections, all the way from presidential to local city council? Are we going to start reading the bills that's being set in place? Are we going to start reading academic studies, psychology studies, when they tell us something is bad, or that something is no good, or that something is okay? Are we going to start listening to the sciences? Not so much even with drugs, but even with our food. What is our Congress, what are you saying is okay to put in our food? Why is, this okay here, but it's banned over here? Like, we just need to start paying attention to these politicians and what they do. Another point, I don't know about y'all, but a job can fire you for something good, something bad, and have no reason at all. They can just fire you. These politicians work for you. They fuck up, they gotta go. Like, that's just what it is. Some of these names that he mentions in this book that clearly led us up to mass incarceration, whether they meant well or didn't, are still collecting a paycheck and sitting in office. So like I said, we got this information now. What are we gonna do with it? Sorry, you had your glory days. I understand that you didn't mean for things to come out this way, but we're gonna have to let you go. I don't see anything wrong with that. You don't owe them anything. They work for you. So I would like to really see us, as in the Black community, stand up and really do something with this information. I know that I'm going to start holding politicians accountable, asking questions, because other than that, you won't be getting my vote. So that's pretty much my thoughts on locking up our own. It was a very nice piece, not too heavy, not too deep, but like I said, it did bring up some memories. But other than that, you guys go ahead and check it out. If you already read it, comment, let me know what you think about your thoughts, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.